Yeah, man. It's the 6th of February, 2023, or it will be by the time you're watching this. In this video, I want to talk about a few things. Some things that I've witnessed firsthand that gang stalkers do with devices, phones, and stuff like that. And I should note that the reason I'm doing this video right now is because there's about five or so gang stalkers that are using broadcasts to physically torture me. Right now, I can feel broadcasts around my eye socket on my right eye. They continue to put broadcast stuff on my face and then in my abdomen area all day today. Mostly, they've been basically when they're on mind control and they're uh, living as controlling a hologram broadcast. They'll just go into your body with that. So I got broadcast saturated into my body and it hurts. When they do it, it hurts bad and their intention is to hurt you. So I should also note that these guys are part of a gang, a terrorist organization. They call themselves Viva La Crucial. They spell it with an X. And they say that their leader is Robert Dwayne Lackey of Stockbridge, Georgia. And I know for certain that Robert Lackey is a gang stalker with remote neural monitoring access. And so it makes sense. It makes sense that they would say, "Oh, he's the leader of their gang or whatever." So these guys are physically torturing and attacking me with broadcasts in a way that if people could see what they're doing, then self-defense would be perfectly acceptable. It would be a perfectly acceptable means of protecting yourself to defend yourself by any means necessary. If people knew what these gang stalkers were doing with broadcasts, nobody would have a problem with you physically stopping people from doing this with self-defense tactics in a physical way. Nobody would have a problem with that if they really knew what these gang stalkers are doing to attack and torture people with broadcasts. It's no different than any other weapon that somebody can attack you with, except for they can do it from somewhere else. So right now I'm 1,000 miles away from them, and they're in the Atlanta area, still physically attacking me. But let's move on with what I want to talk about in this video. So, I know some people that are gang stalkers that have neural monitoring. And unfortunately, they decided that it was the best idea for me to be tortured and gang stalked for all these years rather than try to do anything about it, whether that be stop them or give me neural monitoring or, threaten these people that are doing this to me or whatever. But so there's a girl that I knew and I still know the person, but I don't speak with them ever. And I was pretty close with them way back in the day. This goes all the way back to 2012, and this before I ever heard of gang stalking. Before I was even being gang stalked in any way that I knew about. I don't even think I was being physically attacked at the time until like later, like 13 and 14 is when I was being physically attacked, but I still didn't know what gang stalking was. And then as things progressed, 14 and 15, I started to learn about this and I had to find targeted individual. I'd never heard of it. I'd never heard of remote neural monitoring. I'd never heard of gang stalking. Okay, but rewind back to 2012. And this is important because I didn't know what was going on at the time, but this person was learning the ropes. They were learning how to be a gang stalker and how to have and possess neural monitoring. And this is a person that was not ever into computers. They didn't even own one. They didn't even own a computer. But they started to associate with some people that had neural monitoring that started to put them on. And so they were able to start to learn the ropes on how they conceal neural monitoring and some of the things that they do. Now, I still don't fully understand this, but it's definitely areas of focus. We should be focusing on these things. And if it was just some waste of time and I didn't witness it personally, I wouldn't be telling you about it. But since I witnessed it personally and later came to find out that that's why this was happening, then I'm going to tell you, these are areas that we should be focused on. Now, One of the things right from the beginning was this person started to change their DNS on their devices. And I mean, like, they were using like open DNS. And you should probably study the different reasons why you would want to change your DNS, your domain name server. Uh, it's DNS. It's like you can go in to the network settings on a device and you can change your domain name servers. And for whatever reason, this person was always making it a point to go in and change their DNS and to be on open DNS. And that's the one that they were using. I know that there's different ones. There's like Cloudflare has some and Google has some, but this person was particularly using open DNS. And you're talking about somebody that know nothing about computers, never even had one, and was just from other people they were associated with. They were learning about neural monitoring and how to conceal and to possess these things with their device. All right, so they were going on to OpenDNS and they were changing their DNS to the OpenDNS domain name servers. Okay, that's one thing, and it had to do with, and I'll get into how this progressed. Okay, so it had to do with neural monitoring, and I didn't notice at the time. I didn't find it out till later, but come to find out later, I found out this person was associated with all of these other people that I know now to be gang stalkers. Started to know in like 14 and 15. But back in 2012, I had no idea why they were doing this open DNS thing and changing their DNS, and I didn't understand it. And I still don't I still don't understand it, and that's my fault. That's over a decade ago. That's 11 years ago. I should know by now what this all about, but I haven't taken the time to study this. But I'm bringing this information to you, and perhaps we can motivate each other to continue down this pathway to understand these things better. Okay, another big thing that was happening that I didn't understand, and I still don't quite understand it, is they would go onto the browser and they would type in http:// static.php.net, and then it would say like it works or something like that. And I didn't understand what that meant. Okay, and I still don't understand why they would be typing that in. But if I recall, it said it works, or at least it was just going back to normal. Like it was making some kind of setting with that. Now, the it works thing, I know that if you are using like localhost and you type in http:// localhost, and then you hit enter on your browser, right, and then it'll come up and say it works. And what that's telling you is that your localhost is active. And I don't know if this PHP.net, the static PHP.net thing had very much to do with that, or if it didn't. But what I think was happening was that they were logging on to somebody, their group of gang stalker people. They were logging into their network, their private network, their local host, or whatever you want to call it. So I think that's what was going on. But this person was always doing the DNS and then doing that static PHP thing, and that's how they would set up their device before they would start doing anything else on their device. Now, later, maybe like about a year later from that, this person was still blowing my mind, learning all this weird stuff that I didn't understand, but they were starting to be on Android Developer all the time. And they had a hosting package it was with Bluehost. Okay, and still, this person did not own a computer, and I had no idea why this person was doing all of this weird stuff. But one day they showed me, and I don't think that they were supposed to show me that. And at the time, the targeting wasn't like it is now, like it has been since like 14, 15. It wasn't like that yet. Now, there was times in 13 when I started to become physically attacked by broadcasts from the same guys that I'm dealing with now. I just didn't, they weren't talking out loud, and I didn't understand what was going on then. I didn't know about gang stalking still. And it was later when they started bragging about the torture that they're doing as they were doing it that I was like, they're doing that. Oh, okay, they're doing that with this broadcast stuff. But prior to that, you know, I didn't know that that's what was happening. I just, for some reason, I was having physical pains and I was being tortured. I was being tortured. I didn't know it. Okay, but before that, though, this person that showed me this stuff, you know, I don't think that they understood, or maybe they didn't know that it was going to end up being this whole situation of being targeted. But what they showed me was that they had a virtual Android on their iPad, meaning that they could go onto their iPad, log in to an Android, and on the iPad was an Android that could do whatever any other phone could do. And that's when well, at the time, I didn't understand it still, why they were doing this or why they had this. And you know, yeah, it was cool or whatever, but I didn't get it. And now I do, because that's what all of these gang stalkers do. They have virtual devices and hosting packages where they host the virtual device on the internet, and all this Android developer and PHP.net stuff or static this and that. Like, I feel like an idiot for not studying this stuff really hardcore for the last decade, and I would already have been to a point where I could have destroyed these idiots that are on my neural monitoring. I would have already been to the point, but I didn't do it. I haven't done it, and that's my fault. Um, it'll still be my fault if I don't go ahead and do it. And since I'm telling you this information, if you believe me at all, you should be doing it. You should be studying localhost and PHP and Android developer and anything Google developer and anything Meta developer and anything Apple developer, all that stuff. We should be learning all that stuff. It's the only way to stop being targeted. Otherwise, you'll be a slave, human trafficked by your neurological broadcast frequency and likely tortured and tormented forever, for the rest of your life. And this will be your life. Or you could start studying the right things and become somebody that can do something about it. And so that's really my direction that I'm headed. But this person literally, they had a virtual Android that they were hosting online with Bluehost, or you could use any hosting, and they were accessing it on their iPad, and they had become an Android developer, and they were always changing their DNS and doing this static PHP.net thing on the browser, and they were setting everything up to be able to privately, securely access neural monitoring through their virtual device where they had everything hidden. Because they don't just put the stuff on their phone like for anybody to see. They'll put it on our phones, and they're going to eject it if soon as anybody that knew how to find it wanted to find it. If we learn how to find it, they will jump ship. They will be off our devices, and they would probably not target us anymore. But I'm quite sure that there's going to be some breadcrumbs leading back to a whole bunch of illegal things. And what they're going to do, they're going to be trying their best to appease us at that point. They're going to be trying their best to make sure that we don't come on to the gang stalking groups on Facebook and the YouTube channels about targeted people and start blabbing all this stuff when we really know. They're going to do anything to shut us up at that point. And it's their fault. It's their fault because, especially with me, like I know, I was so close to the situation and some of the people, you know, that are or became gang stalkers with neural monitoring, having access to neural monitoring, and I've seen too much right from the beginning. Just like when Black James, he back in like 2014 or 15, he was like. he was like, yeah, you're on neural monitoring. And I was like, well, I need to get that or whatever. And he's like, yeah, you got to talk to Robert Lackey. And I already know there's a girl that has possession and control over my neural monitoring. Is very much involved in this conspiracy to destroy me and conspiracy to murder and all kinds of stuff. A trail of people behind, that tangled up with her that ended up in my same situation. Other people I know. Other people I know that got tangled up with this group ended up being targeted, having artificial telepathy, and their life being ruined, all kinds of stuff. I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one from my circle. It's not my circle now, but the circle that I was in then. I'm not the only one. Okay, there's several people from that exact circle that had the exact same circumstance as me. That all the same things started happening to. And yeah, of course they want to make, oh yeah, this person's crazy. They're on drugs and they're talking crazy, right? Yeah, they want you to believe that. They want you, but now what? 10 years later, it's pretty hard to still be saying stupid stuff that's obviously not true. It's pretty difficult and here I am still talking about it. Here I am still knowing too much. But when Black James said, you got to talk to Robert Lackey. And Robert Lackey came on to my neural monitoring, broadcast telepathy right then. And as soon as he started talking, I didn't really know him, but I knew him. I ran into him a few times around town, at some parties and stuff or whatever. And I didn't really know him. And he was from like the next town over. But I knew of him, and I had ran into him. I had met him, or I knew him a little bit. But as soon as he started talking, I knew it was him. I saw, clicked him. I remembered from a long time before. I remembered him. I knew that was him right when he started talking. And he was like, you know too much, And, it doesn't matter. He's right. He's right. I know too much for these idiots to be targeting me at all. I know too much to not have my neural monitoring. I know way too much, and I feel like the biggest idiot in the world for not progressing this thing a lot farther than I have. And you better believe that I'm going to. And the reason is because I'm still targeted individual being tortured with broadcasts from these morons. What kind of idiots y'all got on my channel that would do this stupid stuff knowing that I know too much anyway in the first place, knowing that what I'm capable of, knowing what I'm capable of. None of you idiots are smarter than me, and it's just, I'm so mad at myself for not going about this the right way right from the beginning. And here I was like going to the police and having altercations with people and trying to contact all these federal agencies and state agencies, making all these channels and all these groups. I should have been learning Android developer and Google developer and Meta developer or Facebook developer at the time. I should have been learning about all this Apple developer stuff. I should have been learning about DNS. I should have been learning about PHP and localhost and all of that stuff. They used to say they used to call Facebook PHP Facebook. They were like PHP Facebook. That's what it was. Just a little phrase they would always use. And like a year and a half ago, when I got this screen recording of this Tony Bruce profile. He's one of these gang stalkers in that group. Okay, when I got this screen recording video of the Tony Bruce profile that had my stuff, my groups and stuff integrated into his profile. So it's like part of his profile, and there's no way to go on Facebook and do that. You can't go on a regular person using regular internet and regular apps and regular websites. You cannot go and integrate stuff into your profile in that way. It's not a possible setting. And if you could, you wouldn't be able to integrate somebody else's digital property into your Facebook profile. And it was a custom made, probably with PHP, using the developer side of Facebook. That's why they always call it PHP Facebook, because that's the coding language that they would use when they would build these custom applications that normal you can't access it. Maybe if you were on a secure private connection and you had PHP enabled, because you can't even process PHP correctly without enabling all of that stuff. And you have to go into the configuration files and enable PHP on your device, and then set up localhost to even be able to process it. And when it says I don't know, the it works, that's when localhost is working. And then the PHP, I don't know, maybe that's the hello world or whatever, but it's like when it's working, okay, it works. Like you could, it's a lot you guys need to start learning about. And it's a lot of a direction that I'm giving you that I promise is the correct direction. And I promise you that this is really what they're doing. These gangsters, they can go on Facebook, and it's a completely different Facebook than we can access. We can't go on Facebook, the real Facebook. They get everything we have plus everything they have. That's what they get when they go on Facebook. It's like the gang stalker version, And there was times when they had like some of my devices linked into their network, and I could go onto a Google search and I was on their network, their private connection network, where it's like their local host or whatever. And when I was on their private network, I could type in a search and pull up all kinds of stuff that wasn't normally coming up in regular searches. And I was finding all this stuff, and there's like all these different secret ways to like do slide maneuvers and like pull up secret videos on all these little underground, little blog looking sites and stuff. There's so many little secret things on the internet, and I've found so much of it. Like I said, like Robert Lackey said, you know too much. You damn right I know too much. And everybody's about to know all the things that I know. And I'm going to continue to study these things. And I got the right direction because I've seen it all with my own eyes. I've seen somebody go from a regular person to having their neural monitoring, and the whole process of the things they were learning from DNS to PHP to static PHP.net, whatever they were logging into with that, to Android developer, to having virtual devices, to hosting packages, to becoming a gang stalker with neural monitoring. And I've seen it all through the whole process. And at the time, I didn't even know what I was looking at. But later, as I became gang stalked and I started to have all these things happening to me, and I started finding all this different stuff, even on my own devices, find their files on your devices. Find stuff from that's my stuff, like integrated into their little secret gang stalker accounts and stuff. And you can't access that stuff normally. And it was an accident that I was ever able to access it. This because they messed up. They messed up and got too deep into my devices on my networks or whatever. And then there's been many a times where I've seen things that I wasn't supposed to see. And it's pretty common that they would just brick a device or shut down my device or start crashing devices and deleting files and lock me out of everything. And I wasn't supposed to see a lot of the things that I saw. And before I was really targeted like I am now, that, they weren't supposed to show me virtual devices and how all of that worked. But it just so happened that, and that's why this never should have happened. I shouldn't even know what a targeted individual is unless I was somebody that became a gang stalker. Wouldn't that have been a crazy pathway? If I was to just become, I don't think it would have happened. I don't think it could have happened. And I think that's why they decided that they were going to target me instead of let me have neural monitors. Because these were some close people that were close to me. Okay, so, some of, not people that I've named, but some of the people that I'm talking about, they were very close to me. And if people that are very close to you get neural monitoring, you would think they would give you neural monitoring, just like somebody close to them gave them neural monitoring access. But I'm pretty sure the reason is because I don't fit the profile. I don't fit the right mindset. And they're afraid, like, oh, no, you can't. Like, he probably would stand up for these people and stuff like that. And maybe so. It's hard to say what would have happened otherwise. But I can tell you what's going to happen now. I can tell you what's going to happen now. These idiots targeted the wrong person. And I'm going to keep learning as much as I can. And as I learn all of this stuff, you guys are going to know. And I've given you the direction. I've given you the direction. All right, so that's it. Just want to get that off my chest since they decided they want to target my abdomen and crawl in my ears and put stuff in my eyes. What a bunch of idiots. Who unleashed the moron squad onto my neural monitoring? What a bunch of idiots. All right, man, that's all. Thanks for watching.